New England Patriots fall 31-17 to the Miami Dolphins. A tough loss to drop their record to 2-6, while Miami improves to 6-2 and climbs atop the AFC East division standings, a game ahead of Buffalo, while the Patriots are still in the basement, 2-6. Really tough loss. Going in, there was so much hope after the Patriots game against Buffalo in Foxborough last week, where they really outplayed the Buffalo Bills. They were just flat out outplayed in Miami most of today. Still some positives to take away. At least the Patriots were competitive, dare I say, early in the game, jumping out to a 7-0 lead on a Kyle Duggar interception. They got a touchdown to Kendrick Bourne off the turnover, rushing out to an early lead, being able to play ahead, and it seemed like, oh, here we go again. This Patriots team playing from ahead is going to have a shot to really control the tempo of this game, and then immediately Miami marches down the field and hits Tyreek Hill on a deep bomb where he just blew by J.C. Jackson, and I forgot the safety that was covering him, but really, J.C. Jackson had a rough game the entire time, being matched up either against Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. So really difficult loss for the Patriots to drop to 2-6. They're through the difficult portion of the schedule and now have a few games coming up where they can hopefully begin to stack up some wins, but a lot of questions, especially after this one. The biggest takeaway before we get into the offense, the defense, and of course the terrible officiating, which is no excuse. Patriots deserve to lose that game, but probably some of the worst officiating against the Patriots I've seen in quite some time. But Patriots did deserve to lose this game, and that's because of the offensive firepower. I mean, it is just so difficult for the Patriots to get moving down the field. They just claw their way toward gaining, 4 or 5 yard plays, few good rushing plays, getting chunk yardage. Just not possible, even with Demario Douglas being their number one guy these last few weeks. Defense is no Douglas is the number one guy, and because of that, he wasn't able to be quite as effective, even though he still did a decent job as he was the previous week against Buffalo. But Miami, doesn't matter, 3rd and 13, you're always worried. You're always worried that the Patriots are going to give up a play just because of the firepower that they have on offense. Even with how banged up Miami's offensive line was, Patriots were kind of able to get to Tua early in the game, but that went away quickly, and because of that, Miami was able to pick them apart. Patriots defense, although I don't think they played a terrible game, they were able to slow down Mostert to just 46 yards on 13 carries. Miami has the best running game in the NFL, and they could never really get it going, but because of the deep threats, because the Patriots just had no answer for Tyreek Hill and Waddle and all of those offensive weapons, Barrios, that the Dolphins have, they just could not match up well. So we'll start off with the Patriots offense. Like I said, just not being able to get those chunk plays from Miami is such an enormous disadvantage. And even though they jumped out to a 7-0 lead, you saw just how quickly the Dolphins could fire back. Mac Jones, not a great game. 19 of 29 for 161 yards. He did throw a couple touchdown passes, but a pretty brutal interception in the red zone where the Patriots had the chance to once again even up the game. And they weren't able to do it because, it was a good play by Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey kind of faked that he was going toward the end zone, and Mac Jones just stared down Kendrick Bourne, and Ramsey jumped in and nearly had a pick six on the play. His first game with the Miami Dolphins this season, and Mac Jones, it was not the worst interception of Mac Jones this season. It was just a really good play by Jalen Ramsey. At the same time, Mac, you can't be making that throw. And it has nothing to do with his arm strength. I know everyone's saying, like, oh, you got to gun it over there. I don't think Josh Allen would have thrown an interception there, too. It was just a great play by Jalen Ramsey. But it is a throw Mac Jones should not have made regardless. And really, ultimately, once you make those unforced errors, it really costs you. And Mac needs to do a better job at deciding whether or not he's open, especially on those across the field throws that he really shouldn't be making unless it's a sure thing. And what we've seen from Mac Jones is when he tries to make a play, in the same way Josh Allen, when he has nothing there, he tries to make a play, he just can't do it. He's very limited. He needs good protection. He needs good weapons on offense. And that's no excuse for Mac. He should have had another pick later in the game as well. But Mac needs that in front of him. Although I would say the offensive line, not amazing today, but much better than they have been. That lineup of Trent Brown, Cole Strange, David Andrews, and then whomever you want at right guard, plus Owenu at right tackle, does seem to be the path forward. Mac just did not get rid of the football as quickly as he did in previous games. Even the bad games, the blowouts to the Cowboys and the Saints, still just not getting rid of the foot. He'd get rid of it quickly in those games. Today, he tried to buy time because Miami did such a good job at taking away the middle of the field, taking away those checkdowns, those safety passes where Mac thrives, that he had to throw to the sideline, and he couldn't get it done. Now, still a decent drive in the fourth quarter where the Patriots were able to pull it within 7 points. But really, they had no answer defensively for Miami's offense. So let's get to the defense here. Not the worst game in the world, even though it kind of seems that way, giving up 31 points. Miami's just so good. And the real issue with the defense is they were able to generate some pressure early in the game and get Tua a bit off balance. And Tua was never really as comfortable as we've seen him. He rips apart Bill Belichick's defense. And this was the least comfortable I've seen him look, and they still put up 31 points in spite of that. Really tough having J.C. Jackson out there guarding Tyreek Hill or Waddle. He can't do either. And look, the officiating wasn't great, and I'll get to that in just a second. But either way, you can't be tugging at the jersey of Tyreek Hill. You can't be giving the refs a reason to throw the flag. And J.C. Jackson just could not keep up with those guys. Not having Christian Gonzalez out there is a real loss against teams like Miami, because Christian Gonzalez, when Jonathan Jones went down during that Week 2 matchup against the Dolphins, Christian Gonzalez was able to step in there and really contain Tyreek Hill. J.C. Jackson could not get that done. And ultimately, the defense, look, they'd stop him on first down, on second down. Oftentimes, they'd stop him on third down. And it doesn't matter because Miami's going to go for it. They're going to be aggressive. If it's within, 4th and 5, 4th and 4, unless they're backed up on their own goal line, they're going to go for it. And when you have those offensive weapons, you're just not going to stop that. You're not going to stop a team that is always going to get 4 chances at a first down. And Patriots have to keep them below 4. It has to be 4th and 6 and beyond to stop that, and they were just unable to do that. Even when they stopped them on third down, Miami was able to consistently convert on fourth down. Miami also had a few third and longs. They took a penalty, and it didn't matter. They were able to throw a screen pass or throw it downfield on a slant to Tyreek Hill up the middle. Like, there were so many chances the Patriots defense had to get the Miami offense off the field, and they couldn't do it. And on plays where in past times in the NFL, 5-10 years ago, teams would have punted it, Miami didn't punt it, and they were able to convert. And that's the real issue here is, I know the Patriots are banged up. They don't have Matthew Judon. They don't have Christian Gonzalez. But they are starting to get a little healthier, especially with the DBs. You have to figure out, do I play up? Do I play aggressive? Do I play tight on this defense and risk them throwing over the top? Or do I play conservative? Unfortunately, the way Mike McDaniel and the way Tua works is they'll take whatever the defense gives them. They did that in Week 2 against the Patriots, and they did it today in Week 8 again against New England. So really, really tough to see the defense because I don't think they were as bad as it looked. Miami was able to convert, and look, there's a lot to be encouraged about going forward with an easier schedule coming up. But the defense has to figure out, hey, we got to take chances here, and not just in terms of blitzing, which the Patriots have done all season. We have to take chances and cover these guys and get and face that risk of the ball going over the top, like it did against J.C. Jackson and Tyreek Hill earlier in the game when Miami evened it up at 7 apiece. You got to have Jonathan Jones guarding Tyreek Hill. I mean, there's just nobody else on that defense that can keep up with him. You don't have Marcus Jones out there. So it has to be Jonathan Jones just glued to him the entire game. And even then, you have to know you're going to get beat. But 17 points against the Miami Dolphins is not going to do it. You need to be competitive offensively, and the Patriots just do not have the weapons. And that's always going to be a tough game going down to Miami anytime before November. And it was going to be a tough win regardless, but you would have liked to see the Patriots at least build a little bit off of last week. Not as bad as it was against New Orleans or Dallas, certainly, or even Vegas. I thought they looked better than they did those 3 losses, but still not great. Now, the officiating was atrocious, all right? Patriots, there was an iffy defensive pass interference call on J.C. Jackson defending Tyreek Hill, where the Patriots were able to get a stop. They threw the flag. That's a call most of the time the officials are going to let go, and they didn't, of course. But it happens. You're going to have that from time to time. But then you had the Devontae Parker concussion. Clear, obvious, defenseless play. He caught the ball, looked up, and immediately got rattled. Left the game with a concussion. We're probably not going to see Devontae Parker for at least a couple of weeks because of it. With the NFL claiming to crack down on those types of plays, for them to not even consider calling that really just shows how one-sided the officiating was today. Dolphins only had 3 penalties the whole game. Look, they weren't perfect, but that's as close to perfect as you're going to get in an NFL game, 3 penalties, versus the Patriots getting 7. They were not calling it both ways. And then we also had what else happened? There was a pulled flag on an ineligible man downfield. Patriots get called on the next drive for an ineligible man downfield, which looked just as obvious as the previous play for Miami having an ineligible man. It was iffy. It was 50-50. It was close. But to see the refs call it and then pick up the flag the way they did, and then on the other side, another close play, and it's on the Patriots. Again, not going both ways. And then you had the blown whistle for forward progress coming late. Refs didn't even consider it. Now, I think it was Mostert who had the ball. It was punched out. Clearly, forward progress should have been called, but the whistle was blown after the ball was punched out, and it wasn't even considered. So, Patriots got robbed on a number of occasions today. Again, would it have made the difference? Maybe that play, that DPI on J.C. Jackson against Tyreek Hill, if that weren't called, it would have been a closer game. The ineligible man play would have been a closer game. I don't think it would. They would have won the game had those not been called. But you got to call it both ways, and that was some of the worst officiating I've seen against the Patriots in quite some time. But really, home crowd refs for the Miami Dolphins there. No excuse. Patriots still, you got to bounce back from that, and they obviously did not. But 2-6 is a tough hole to be in. We have the trade deadline coming up in a couple of days. I do not anticipate the Patriots being sellers other than maybe Josh Uche because they use him in a limited role and he could get a lot more playing time for another team. You might as well get something back for him instead of losing him to the offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him, but I don't see the Patriots selling off a lot of assets nor making a big splash and bringing in a receiver or an offensive lineman like they should before the season. They're going to have to work with what they got. And that's going to be tough because Kendrick Bourne went down today. Devontae Parker went down today, although Parker's not really doing much, let's be honest. But losing Kendrick Bourne is a big deal. Hopefully we get to see some of the young guys worked in a little bit more. But, hey, look, I know they're 2-6, but the Patriots do have a chance here to go on a bit of a run. They got Washington, who is playing very competitive against the Eagles. Let's see. Let me just check the score on that real quickly. Did they win? It looks like the Eagles were able to beat the Commanders. But that's not a gimme, but it is a game the Patriots should be competitive and potentially win next week. And then you have the Colts over in Germany. That's certainly a winnable game. You have a bye coming off that. You have the New York Giants. They're tanking at this point. You should be able to win that game. And then the LA Chargers coming into Foxborough after that in a game that really, Chargers are not the same team. You should be able to win all 4 of those games potentially. Now, none of those games are sure things. The Giants are as close to a sure thing as you're going to get, but Patriots, if they play like they did last week and are able to avoid some of the mistakes they made this week, they can go on a run and even it up to 6-6. But I don't care who you're playing. Winning 4 games in a row is going to be very challenging. And even if they somehow do that, they got the Kansas City Chiefs coming to Foxborough on Monday night after that. So getting to 500, very possible if they can go on a bit of a run here. Staying at 500 or above, very challenging because you got the Chiefs still. Then you got the Broncos on the road. Winnable game, but still tough. Then you got to go on the road to Buffalo. That's going to be difficult. And then the Jets at home. Patriots could potentially be a 500 team if they go on a bit of a run these next few weeks. But that's really going to determine whether this is the team that they want to keep moving forward with. If Mac Jones is the quarterback of the future, maybe you just decide, hey, they finished the season 7-10 or 8-9, and you say, all right, get a little bit of help on the offensive line, get a few weapons at receiver, and see what we can do here. Keep building up this defensive base we've been building over the last few years. But they struggle to win any of these next 4 games, then you got to look into a full-blown rebuild and potentially going after one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, Drake May or Caleb Williams. But that's it. That's the instant reaction. Patriots dropped the game 31-17, dropped to 2-6. More content on patscast.com later this week, and of course, a long-form video as well. Until then, see you then.